What's up, y'all? Henry Higita here with another episode of Across the Pitch, where hell is real and we are really going through it. Atlanta United still hasn't found a win since March. That is not fun. And they're going to be under the spotlight of Sunday night soccer once again when FC Cincinnati comes to town. If you didn't get the hell is real reference, Cincinnati, Columbus Crew, tied 1-1 in the Hell is Real Derby. And we have, for the first time, a returning guest on this show. Let me bring in Josh from Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Josh, welcome back to the show, man. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Incredibly honored to be the illustrious. I guess I'll get the certificate in the mail. It's first time, second, first second timer. So, no, it's really awesome to be here, guys. I really appreciate it, and always happy to join.
So, Josh, really quickly, we're going to get it off the bat with a question from our chat from Gray, one of our guys. Explain Skyline Chili and how is it the key to the club's success?
So Skyline Chili is it is a cultural phenomenon. It is a lifestyle in Cincinnati. No, it's Cincinnati chili is just it genuinely is like a staple. It is not chili in the sense that you think it is. It's more of a sauce. Obviously, Skyline is the big headliner because it's arguably the biggest in the area. And then you put Skyline, and you put on a hot dog, you put on a coney, a nice little with some chili and some cheese. It's great. Or if you want to do it proper, and this is always gets the headlines, is you put a plate of spaghetti down, you put a nice little layer of chili down with some cheese and some onion, and you go to town. That's Skyline. That is Cincinnati, and it's running through the veins of every Cincinnatian that you will ever meet and ever know. Is they grow up eating this and believe it's delicious, and it is.
That's incredible. Chili on spaghetti is not one that I think I've heard before, but you know what? Maybe I'll just have to try it, man.
It is one of one. You will not find it anywhere else. You can go down if you're ever in Orlando, you can go there. There are a couple locations in Florida that have made their way out there for some reason or another. But yeah, you have to try it once. It always gets the headlines. Everyone always has their opinions on it. But it's like any local food, right? You got to do it once. You got to just give it a shot. You don't have to like it. We never ask you guys. We never praise anybody that says they hate it. You know what I mean? Like, you can hate it, you're allowed to. There are players in Cincinnati who hate it, and that's fine, but you got to try it. You can't bash it without trying it, so give it a shot.
Well, you heard it here first, guys. Try that Skyline chili with spaghetti and let us know in the comments if it's any good, if I should try it. Maybe we'll do something on the show at some point, all of us trying Skyline chili.
Local tip, if you are a fan of hot, get the habanero cheese. Critical, adds a nice little spice. And then you can add your own hot sauce in there too. If you want to look like a local, they'll bring you out a little tray of oyster crackers as a nice little sampler. You take the hot sauce, you put a little dip of the hot sauce on the cracker. It's called the cracker bomb. Just boom. That'll get you going. That'll make you blend in, so you're not like if you want to look like a professional. Cracker bombs and habanero cheese are the way to go.
Chili, spaghetti, crackers. This just keeps getting better, man.
Listen,
this is amazing.
Don't ever say that Cincinnati is not a culinary institute, because where else are you going to get this in the world? Nowhere.
Oh, no, yeah. When they say American cuisine, this is what we talk about.
Absolutely.
But yeah, look, don't knock it till you try it. Skyline chili. Don't knock it till you try watching a Hell is Real Derby, y'all. That was a pretty fun Hell is Real Derby, even though it ended 1-1. I thought it was a fun game, and it was actually going on at the same time as Atlanta United's game. And I have to be real, I kind of preferred watching the Hell is Real Derby because Atlanta United's not really doing anything these days. But tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that game in particular, because I think that one just grabs the headlines, especially on rivalry week.
Yeah, I mean, hell is real. It's, we talked a lot about, and since on our show and throughout, all of the region, is just kind of how special it is that, FC Cincinnati can be so young in this league and already have kind of one of, if not the best marquee rivalry game in the league. And it's backed it up every single year, and it's already, vamped it grown in stakes when you're talking Eastern Conference Finals games, and you're talking, cup games from years past, and then so it's a big deal, and it means a lot to both of these teams, and you see that when they play a game on a Saturday, and the Wednesday before is a match, and you've got fully rotated lineups because both of these coaches are going to try to put their best out there on Saturdays. So this hell is real. This edition was. I'm glad that you guys found it entertaining, because a lot of us in the Cincinnati fan base were sweating out that second half. That's 60 minutes. Obviously, you go up early with a Kevin Denke goal, and then for the next 80 minutes, you're sitting on the edge of your seat because you're defending the entire time. And that was kind of the crux of it, right? It was let's try to smash and grab and get out of here with some points. And an unfortunate handball, allowed Columbus to equalize. And I think that kind of was enough. I think everybody at the end of the day kind of comes out the other side of a rivalry game on the road. Road points are so critical in MLS, as we all know, in any game, and especially in a rivalry game like that. So, uh, if you told the fan base, hey, you're gonna get a 1-1 draw on the road, and then everybody will be like, okay, that's fine. I think it's just the way that it unfolded for defending the entire second half. It seemed like um, was the kind of nervy part, and I don't think anybody would have signed up for that for sure.
Yeah, second halves not fun for Atlanta either so far this season. Let's actually get into this matchup that we've got going on. But actually, before we get into the game on Sunday, we have a unique opportunity here because we can go back and talk about the last time that Atlanta and Cincinnati faced off. It was a 2-2 draw. Atlanta goes up first. Latte Lot, amazing goal, kind of on the volley. And then two Evander goals to put Cincinnati ahead. And it looks like Cincy's going to get that win at home. But own goal strikes. And it ends up being a 2-2 draw. Tell me a little bit about that game. I know there were several players missing from international call-ups, but what did you think of that game?
Yeah, I mean, you go back and you look at that lineup, the lineups of both of those games for both teams, really, and you're just like, whoa, boy, what a time that was. I definitely don't miss those times where you're trying to figure out who's not, who's available, who's picking up minutes, who's trying to find some stuff. But yeah, that was one of those weird games. I remember, talking with you last time, was just like, hey, this game's a crapshoot because both of these lineups are just gonna be, who knows what to expect. And lived up to the billing. It was weird. It was fun. It was, again, took an own goal to snake the points away from Atlanta. Again, a nice little, kind of felt the same with the last game, with the Columbus game, of just kind of a smash and grab and get out of there, but be be thankful that you did, because you were seconds away from not getting anything out of that. So yeah, it was a weird game, and now, even though some of the faces look the same, some of the names will pop up still. I think this is the healthiest that Cincinnati has been all season. And I think you just kind of, and you look at the run that both teams went on after these games, right? I mean, Cincinnati went on to take 20 points out of what, 24 in the next stretch of running games, and unfortunately Atlanta has gone the other direction. So it has been an interesting kind of couple. It was what, March 22nd, something like that, and so it's been a weird, almost literally March 22nd. And so it's literally
Exactly
been
two
two
months.
months exactly to when we're doing this. So, I mean, yeah, what a 2 months difference it makes for both these teams. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And looking forward to some actual consistency and some continuity, at least on the Cincinnati side.
Yeah, a lot has changed in 2 months. We're almost halfway through the MLS season, which is wild to me. But yeah, we've almost reached that halfway point. Cincinnati is second in the Supporters Shield standings behind Philly on goal difference. They're even on points. And when we spoke a couple of months ago, you said that Cincy didn't look like a team that's ready to win a trophy. Has your perception changed on that at all?
It has. It has. And I'll caveat that with defensively, this team looks like it can win some trophies. The offense is still has some question marks, and you're still there's still some shuffling of the deck, really to kind of figure out how the best way to get all of these pieces to play together is working. Pat Noonan has done an incredible job so far, and in building out his defensive shape and building out the defensive structure, and everyone kind of understanding what their roles are in that. And I think that's paid incredible dividends. I mean, when you look at since that draw, every single win that Cincinnati has had, 6 wins, have all been 1 goal victories. And so that shows how you can win. I believe I've had this debates within the fan base is that's how you win an MLS Cup, in my belief. You need to be able to grind out one game at a time, and when you're in knockout tournament round, you can score a goal and park it. I mean, for those, I'm a Tottenham fan, and you can look at, I mean, right away, like,
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you. It's been a long, hard road, but that's the blueprint, right? That's how you can do that in a knockout game. You can get a scrap a goal on and then park it, and if everyone understands their defensive assignments, you can pull out victories in ugly fashions, and that's all you need. You don't need to win pretty in the playoffs. You just need to win. So I think they've kind of established that front of we can bunker down, we have spent the money on our center back line to provide leadership across the line, depth coming in off the bench who understand their roles and who want you don't really drop off much in terms of talent. So defensively, they're there. Offensively, there's still question marks, and the question marks become, you need to be able to put teams away. You need to be able to go turn these 1 goal victories into 2 goal victories, into 3 goal victories to really just kind of demoralize a team. And so far, this team, FC Cincinnati, has not been able to showcase that. So can they win a trophy? Absolutely. Can they sustain this stretch of runs to get a supporter shield or something like that? That's still the big question mark.
Right. And there's always, that saying that, what is it? Offenses win games, defenses win titles. That could certainly be a real thing. And I think that's a strength of Cincinnati. Something I admire is that back line. And we'll talk about it in just a second. But first, let's talk about some of the top performers so far this season. Let's just start at the beginning. It's got to highlight Kevin Denke for sure. 8 goals in 13 matches, leading the team in goals so far. Scored what I think right now just has to be goal of the year in that 2-1 win over SKC about a month ago. That was like the bicycle kick. That was wild. I saw that. I'm like, that's goal of the year. I just shut it down. It seems like he's quickly settling into the Cincinnati team.
He's starting to find the rhythm. I think he's starting to really kind of understand the space and that's kind of what I was talking about of like, where is this offense figuring out its rhythm? And really it's Kevin Denke and Evander. I mean, we're jumping the gun a little bit with Evander there, but those two trying to find out where they like to play, where the pockets of space they like to work into. They're starting to find that. They're starting to see some connections. And really the kind of interesting thing has been the partnership, not of Denke and Evander, but Denke and Sergio Santos has kind of become the striker partnership that Pat Noonan has leaned on. And it's interesting because Sergio Santos has, obviously gotten older, been an incredible value in MLS for years as a sprinter, as a guy who can really stretch the field vertically. Um, and so he kind of still is doing that. He's lost a little bit of that. He's not really the burner that he used to be, but he still has enough of a threat that he can kind of be the vertical option, allowing Denke to kind of tuck in and find those little different pockets of space. So I think by having Denke and Santos partner up, really you're finding Denke in being able to use his best ability, which is poaching, and really find himself in being in those positions that you want your multi-million-dollar striker to be in, which is just around the goal mouth and the ball finding him. I mean, you talk about the bicycle goal. Obviously, that is an incredible individual talent that you pay for, and you can't teach that. What is I found even more impressive was the goal that he scored in Hell is Real against Columbus. Kind of a crazy situation, balls bouncing around. Evander provides the bicycle assist, but Evander hits it back towards goal, and Denke is just there. Like he's exactly where you want him to be, where nobody's around him, nobody from Columbus is around him because they just lost it. Like how you make the argument, how do you lose Kevin Denke? Well, that's because he's finding himself in the places that he needs to be that nobody thinks of. Like he's just has that, he's finding that instinct, and he's using that goal scoring instinct to put himself in positions to score 8 goals. I mean, he's got some penalty goals for sure, but he is so far showcased exactly what you pay $16 million for, to be that threat. And I can just roll that right into Evander, who is a $12 million acquisition, and he has showcased everything that you would want to see out of that. I mean, he's as advertised in the sense that he's incredibly lethal as a dead ball striker. His free kick ability is one of the best in MLS, and he showcased that already. But I think him and Denke are starting to figure out those little spaces that they can be in, to really feed off of each other, but also to draw attention away. Denke is finding those runs, and it's incredibly unselfish play to make runs in to clear spaces for Evander to get the space to strike the ball from out of the box like Evander likes to do, and it's kind of same vice versa. Denke is going to find himself into pockets where Evander can tuck in and roll to the end line, and Denke can be there. He'll be available for that cutback because they're starting to figure it out, and it's $28 million when you spend on 2 attacking players. You love to see 18 goal contributions between the two of them, and they are Cincinnati's offense right now. There's not a lot of pieces else that are really contributing. They are the offense, and so that's great that they're contributing. You would like to see somebody else, but you get what you pay for, and so far you're getting an MLS MVP caliber candidate in Evander and a Golden Boot candidate in Kevin Denke. So hard to complain.
Absolutely. It seems like great value for money, honestly. And Evander, just as advertised, he had the brace against Atlanta in that game earlier this season. And I remember you telling me last time that y'all were still trying to figure out, like they were still trying to gel a little bit more, to figure out their chemistry, Denke and Evander. And it seems like that's developing really well. And it's a very good thing for Cincinnati. And it's, I think, what has them at the position that they are right now. And Evander, by the way, was my MVP pick at the beginning of the season. So was I right to pick him as my MVP?
I mean, I think so. I think you'd be hard pressed right now to kind of find anybody else who's really putting the full package together in terms of goals and contributions. That obviously you'll have other guys in the conversation, and it's obviously May, so who knows? But yeah, I think he's got to be one of the front runners, right? He is the linchpin of the entire offense for Cincinnati, and he has proven his worth tenfold, really. I mean, second, like you said, second on the team in goals, providing space and goal scoring ability from all over the field. You'd like to see. Wish every goal wasn't a didn't have to be a banger from outside of the box, whether it be, in the run of play or from a free kick. But, again, no one's going to complain about highlight reel goals. And as they figure out, as the gel gets applied and they learn how to play off of each other, you hopefully things get easier for them in terms of scoring goals, because it could be one of the best offenses in MLS if they figure it out.
From an Atlanta fan, I would not complain about goals at all, considering the struggles we're having with our
Sure.
$50 million attack. So, but leaving that aside, I think one that I really want to hear your thoughts about is really Pavel Buka. Uh, it's important. He's important to Cincy's ball progression. He's a contributor in chance creation. I mean, he has 3 assists already. Just tell me what he brings to the team.
You talk about ball progression. He is the ball progressor in that midfield. Cincinnati's going to play 3 in the back with some wing backs, which only going to lead, and Evander's going to play a little bit higher as a number 10, tucked in behind the 2 strikers. And so that your midfield is really only 2 guys. Evander's going to drop and play in some space, eat up some space as well. But you really only got 2. And so when you force interceptions, when that press does work, you need one, hopefully potentially 2 guys in the midfield who can kind of work that double pivot and move the ball from the defense to the offense. Pavel Buka has really been the most consistent and the only consistent ball progressor FC Cincinnati has had this season. It's part of the reason why this offense has kind of looked sort of disheveled at times, is because he is the only one kind of being able to do that. Now, again, you don't Evander will drop and kind of help facilitate that, but if Evander's dropping and your other 2 midfielders are dropping, then you don't really have any link up play to the striker. Like, they have to go directly to the striker. So that progression from your own 18 forward is significantly harder when everyone's behind the ball and everyone's on your own half of the field. So Pavel Buka has been absolutely critical to the FC Cincinnati side, to the point that he's second in minutes played. He's played almost every single game. He's almost started every single game. And the big glaring game that every Cincinnati fan remembers this season so far has been the 4-1 shellacking they took against Philly Union, where they got pressed to absolute hell because they didn't have a ball progressor in the midfield. Pavel Buka did not start that game. And so now, after that game, it's kind of seared in everyone's head. It's like, oh, he's insanely critical to moving the ball through that midfield. So yeah, he is literally the guy that he's the engine in the midfield that kind of keeps everything moving. And early in the season, he had a nice little goal scoring stretch in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So he has the goal scoring ability too. He'll be there at the top of the box in transition if FC Cincinnati is going to play back and hit on the counter. He's going to be a guy that you're going to see as kind of that late trailing run in there and finding those spaces in the top of the 18 or right around the penalty spot. So he's not just like an important piece. He is the important piece in the midfield, to the point that I think FC Cincinnati's business in the summer needs to be finding a carbon copy of Pavel Buka, because their other midfielding partner has kind of just been a rotating chair of, Obino Wobodo is a great defensive midfielder, but his ball progressing has slipped throughout the years. Brian Anunga, they brought in the offseason from Nashville. He is a stout defensive midfielder, almost has 0 ball progression. So you're not playing him to kind of move the ball forward and run the offense. So, and then Yuya Kubo, who's just kind of the Swiss Army knife, kind of does everything. They partnered him with Pavel Buka for a little while, and that's when the offense really kind of clicked, because you had 2 threats there who could hustle back on defense, push the ball forward. You trusted the ball on their foot to kind of make the correct passes that you would want, and trusted them to do it. But he's been hurt in and out of training with injuries, and I don't think he's been out of training. I don't think he's going to play this weekend either. So Pavel Buka is going to carry the load going forward for the foreseeable future in the midfield, and he's kind of at that point where you hope this guy's got enough legs under him, because if he goes out, then you really start to ask questions about what this offense can do.
Yeah, the midfield usually a very important part. And here in Atlanta, we're familiar with, and I know he's at a rival now of yours, but Darlington Nagbe. He was so effective in the midfield for Atlanta back in those 2018, the championship year, where he just knew how to get the ball forward, and he was so important to getting that to players like Miggy Almiron, and being able to really kickstart attacks like that. So yeah, I mean, I'm jealous because I wish we had a midfielder like that. And Atlanta still hasn't really been able to replace him, and we're still looking for the ever elusive Nagby replacement. And so it's very valuable that you guys have a player that can do that for you.
Again, shutting down Cincinnati's offense is really pressing the hell out of those two midfielding pivot spots. And if you can run Pavel Buka down a little bit and make his life irritating, you're going to go a long way into making Cincinnati's offense stymied and confused and frustrated, because that partnership has to work. And if they are under distress so far this season, turnovers have been massive for Cincinnati, and they have not handled that press well. So I'll be super curious to see how that affects them this weekend, because like I said, they're finally healthy a little bit, but you got some heavy legs. You got a couple extra days at least, because you're going from Saturday to Sunday on Sunday Night Soccer. So I'll be curious to see how what the counter is in the midfield, because Cincinnati has struggled so far in that area, and Pavel Buka needs to be there. And if he's annoyed, that's one way to defeat Cincinnati, is annoy the ever loving hell out of Pavel Buka.
Well, we'll try our best. But here's one, and I didn't have him on this list. You mentioned him to me before we started recording, but Nick Hagland, he's on that back line for you, that 3-man back line. Tell me a little bit about why he is such a standout for this team.
Yes, and I mean Nick Hagland he's a little bit older now. He's the Cincinnati kid. He's an icon in the team from being growing up in the area and being with the team since their inaugural 2019 season. And you know he's coming off of a major injury. He tore his Achilles a year ago, and so it was easy to write Nick Hagland off as like, all right, well, he's going to be 32 next year, coming into the season, coming off a major injury. Like he's kind of the heartbeat of the club when it comes to connecting the team with the community and everything. He's Cincinnati through and through. And so you kind of didn't, there was no expectations really that he would kind of come in and contribute. And, he beat Matt Miazga back onto the field. Both of those guys sustained major season-ending injuries, and Nick Hagland's was later, and he beat him back onto the field. And he was like, okay, well, Nick's, all right, great. That's another center back that you can probably trust. And he's arguably had one of the best. He's arguably his best season so far. I mean, it's been incredibly impressive to see someone come back from that kind of injury at his age. Again, I'm older than him, so I can, at his age, sure. But it's a major. We have all seen it in every major sport that we watch. These injuries take time, and the older you get, the harder they are to come back from. And it hasn't sapped any of his ability. I mean, he's a little unorthodox, and again, he's the lovable, smiling Cincinnati kid. But he's just there. He's giving you quality starting minutes in the biggest games. He started against in Hellas Real this past weekend and was part. I mean, he had the unfortunate handball. That's kind of the thing. It kind of just clipped off of his hand, that it wasn't outstretched and whatever. But no fault. I mean, no defender is gonna. You're not gonna fault any defender for being there. And he played it. He just put solid shift after solid shift after solid shift. And he's really given this team the depth that you weren't sure of when you came in to this season. When you had Teenage Hadebe as a starter, who then started picking up injuries. You didn't know what Matt Miazga was going to look like, and he's finally back into the starting lineup wearing the captain's armband. But even he's looking a little bit slower, not fully 100%. He's knocking off the rust from his injury still, and Nick Hagglund has just kind of been that staple, behind Miles Robinson. Obviously, Miles Robinson is a plug and play. Forget that he's number one on the sheet because he is the center back. But Nick Hagglund he's just been impressive, and so I think it's a incredible luxury that Cincinnati has found themselves with. That not only have they had Gilberto Flores, a U22, who it's come in and kind of grown and thrown in right to the fire and performed. But when you have somebody like Nick Hagglund, who's got experience, a veteran leader who can come in and stabilize a defense next to a Miles Robinson, well, all of a sudden you don't have to rush Gilberto Flores into matchups. You don't have to rush Matt Miazga into every single game. You can kind of be cautious with him. You saw it a couple games ago on their Wednesday game when Matt Miazga felt a little something in his hamstring and immediately called for a substitution, and it was like, all right, that sucks. Hopefully Matt's okay, and he was. But you didn't blink because you had Robinson in, you had Hagelin in, you were able to bring a teenage Hadebe off the bench, which is such an incredible resource to have. Again, another stable MLS veteran who you can plug in and not lose any real major quality drop off. So Nick Hagglund, I think, has just been incredibly impressive, and it's really a testament to the training staff to kind of get him prepared.
Nick Hagglund probably going to be one on that 3-man back line for Cincinnati. Let's actually get into that. Your predicted 11 that you sent me for Cincinnati. You have center backs, which is different from last time. Tell me a little bit more about what we can expect from this Cincinnati team that you've given us here.
Yeah, so again, it's nice to pull up a lineup and be like, "Hey, yes, finally these are the guys who are gonna play." Like we know that for sure. I've kind of touched on it a lot. The back line, this lineup has kind of what Pat Noonan has settled into. It's going to be three in the back. You're going to have two wing backs and Lucas Engel. And the big question mark on the right has been Luca Orishano. He's been the real big experiment of kind of, okay, where do we find his role? Because he came into the season as kind of the third head of the attacking Hydra, if you will, for Cincinnati. Of they were going to build this attack around Kevin Deke, Evander, and Luca Orishano. Well, Luca Orishano, it hasn't really found any rhythm yet so far. He started the season early as kind of a dual 10 with Evander. That didn't work, and they've kind of moved him around, trying to partner up with Kevin Denke. That hasn't really worked, and so Pat Noonan in the last couple of matches has gone back to what Luca Orishano originally doing when he first arrived a year ago, and that's put him in right wing back position, let him be that wide option in space, because that's been so critical. Because, like I talked about, Cincinnati's midfield is going to be limited in space. They're going to be limited in numbers, and so when they are pressing, they need someone out wide. They need an option out wide to move the ball. If Pavel Buka forces a turnover, he needs someone to go to, and if Evander's not there next to him, he needs an outlet out wide, and Luca Orishano has provided that and provided a critical attacking option in that space. DeAndre Yedlin is again someone that is incredible that you can bring off of the bench, but in his age has kind of lost his legs a little bit. Hasn't become the same attacking threat that we're used to seeing from him. Luca Orishano has starting to fill that spot. So that's kind of the space that he's found that's yielded the most results so far. Still no goals on the season, which is causing some concern, obviously, within the fan base, because that, again, he is a piece that you expected to be that third option, so you weren't relying so heavily on Denke and Evander to provide the offense. You've got some rumors out there kind of circulating already. Where does Luca Orishano, is Cruz Azul in Liga MX interested again? They were interested last year. Some rumors floating around there. So is this an option where they can find a guy that they can replace and you can switch the lineup here? But for now, Luca Orshano is going to be your starting right wing back and provide that outlet out wide and into space to be able to also take guys 1v1. And if you want the example of how that all works together, just watch the goal that Cincinnati scored in Hellas Real against Columbus. That whole action started with Luca Orashano 1v1 for about 45 yards and just beating and outworking that entire back line. So he's still a threat there, and he can definitely provide that space out wide, and that can lead to great moments. So that's going to be one of their key spots to attacking any defense. Like I said, Pavel Buko being a Wobodo is probably going to be your midfield. Wobodo's not going to, he'll be a ball progressor in as much as he can be, but he's had turnover problems here. And then obviously as you go forward, Evander Denke, and I think, like I said earlier, Sergio Santos has kind of been that partnership, that partner to Kevin Denke that's provided the biggest options. Maybe the key Lynch there is, does Yuya Kubo, is he available? He hasn't practiced at all this week. He would replace Obina Wobodo in the starting lineup if they wanted to come out and be more aggressive in the attack. I think now that this lineup is healthy fully for the first time in a really long time, consecutively, I should say. This has kind of been the staple. This feels like the lineup that they are going to go with, and Lucas Engel and Luca Orashano are going to provide your space out wide, looking to get those cut in runs as well. They're more than willing to and have the freedom to overlap or cut in on either side, allowing Evander and Denke to kind of drop and find those pockets. That's how that offense works. And then defensively, you're going to have three Obina Wobodo as a fourth guy behind to cover any transitions. I still worry about Latte Loth's speed, as every MLS defender should. So I'll be super curious to see, how he attacks Matt Miazga and Nick Hagglund, because, like I said, Matt Miazga still doesn't really have his full legs under him yet. So, and we didn't really see him last time. So you kind of have to throw the last game out the window a little bit because everything is kind of so different. The numbers and the names are so different, and obviously the form is so different for both sides. So it'll be fun to kind of clean slate this. But yeah, this lineup is the one that feels like this is what Pat Noonan's going to do until somebody steps up or somebody else off the bench pushes for minutes, and we'll go from there. But from now into the summer, I expect this.
Now, you mentioned Matt Miazga. He's coming back from a long-term injury, and he forms that back three with Miles Robinson and Nick Hagglund. And that back three, it's been effective. Your past 5 games, Cincinnati hasn't allowed more than a goal in each of those games. And I think there's most of them that they had that back three. Just how good is it to have Matt Miazga back, and what does he bring to this defense?
I mean, it's incredibly critical. I mean, they hit that injury alone derailed their entire season a year ago. I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say that. I think most people, most especially Cincinnati fans, would agree that that took the air out of the entire season. So to have him back, even though he's still kind of knocking off the rust, is huge. But I think it goes to a testament of the depth that they have built on this team, that Matt Miazga can still kind of be rusty, still be the captain of this team. He's wearing the armband now because that's what he also brings more than just his obviously physical ability. It is the mental aspect of it, is the captain, being the vocal captain of this team, being one of those veteran leaders on this team. And you look at how they've constructed this back line. Miles Robinson, arguably one of the best MLS defenders in the league. Matt Miazga has been a defender of the year candidate, veteran leader. Nick Hagglund is of MLS veteran teenage Hadabi, MLS veteran. They've lined this entire center back room with stable MLS proven guys so that they can figure out the rest later, knowing that things can kind of stabilize in the back and be there as a safety net. And we've seen that all season. We've talked about it before. This game, this episode and the last, this is this offense is figuring it out. This team is still figuring it out. They're not firing on all cylinders yet. And yet here we are tied for the supporter shield lead on goal differential only because this defense, and that also includes Roman Celentano, who has immediately picked up and continued to be one of the best shot stoppers in all of MLS. They've built that. Pat Noonan's identity has been, I'm going to build this back line to be one of the best in the league, build this defense to be one of the best in the league. That will buy us time to figure out how we build this offense. And if we can't build this offense now, we have banked enough points or banked enough, goodwill in the table to maybe, drop a couple games here and there or try some things out in the offense that might, lead to some weird results and still be okay and still be at the end of the day, you're not just in the playoff hunt and not just in the hosting, top four in the Eastern Conference hunt. You're in the supporter shield hunt again, which is, again, the last time we talked, the last game was chaos. The form was not great. Cincinnati's form was you're all over the map. You're losing game. You're losing to Charlotte. You're getting blown out by Nashville, or you're getting blown out by Philly, and you're picking off some points here and there. And then all of a sudden, like, you start eking out these 1-goal wins, and people are like, all right, yeah, we can do this. Like, we can. This is going to buy us time. And to your point, having Matt Miazga at the center of the defense to add to another line of incredible MLS depth, like veteran depth pieces, has been the story of the season so far.
Veteran center backs, and honestly, I would argue some of the best center backs in MLS so far, Miazga and Robinson specifically. I mean, we know here how effective Robinson is, how a good defender he is. And, it ties into another question from our Discord from Homer. Is a 3 in the back system the meta in MLS? Well, maybe. I mean, Atlanta started using it a little bit, but I think specifically for Cincinnati, it's because you have these players that can provide that stability for you in the back. And we talked about it before, right? The fact that Cincinnati is able to eke out even these 1-goal wins, it has to do with that defense and the players you have back there. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at the roster construction, and it was the moment they signed Miles Robinson, it was like, okay, well, we have Nick Hagland, who, at that time was starting, was a very stable starting caliber MLS defender. And then you had Matt Miazga, and you're like, okay, well, where does this, like, okay, Hagland goes to the bench, and then it was like, oh, well, the answer was there all along. Like, we were starting 3 center backs. Like, duh. Like, okay, you have made a point to build out a room or to invest into a room. And so we're going to get all of our investments on the field at the same time. And they've never really looked back. I mean, and part of it kind of goes how they constructed their old teams, obviously with Lucho Acosta being the centerpiece for all of those teams in the past. But the winger talent also was part of that. I mean, Alvaro Barreal was a critical piece in those last couple of years, and he was a wing back. He was a dangerous piece. Well, they didn't have a wing spot for him, so it's like, okay, well, we can put him on the wing as a wing back, and all of a sudden it kind of works again because you can fall back on, we are going to build out a back line that's going to be stable and MLS veterans. Because when Pat Noonan got here, this was one of the worst defending teams in the history the league has ever seen. Like, genuinely, one of the worst defenses in the history of MLS was FC Cincinnati. So that was clearly goal number one, was to stabilize the defense, and that just has become Pat Noonan's calling card. And Yeah, I think a back three has been kind of the meta in MLS because, and this is kind of big picture, wingbacks in MLS aren't necessarily. I mean, Luca Orshano is not a wingback, right? He's not gonna if he's gonna go to Cruz Azul or whoever, he's gonna be an attacker. He's gonna be a right winger. He's gonna be somewhere else in the attacking threat. But I think we've seen it like that's how they can get these guys on the field in MLS because that's putting them in space. That's putting them in one v one situations where these guys can showcase their talents and show why they are the guys that are being found in these pockets in South America and all over the world, and then moving on to bigger and better things because this is a spot for them. This is a easy opportunity to put like, hey, we're gonna put you here and we're gonna put a spotlight on you and you just go do you because MLS defending, like center backs, especially in MLS, have just been stable throughout kind of for years. I mean, you have names, you have pieces that you can build around. Like I think of a Jack Elliott going to Chicago Fire, like that's a center back piece that you just like that's Greg Berhalter's first move. That's on purpose because that is a stable piece that you can plop in there and be like, cool, I know my center back room has got proven MLS guys there. I think that's huge. And so Cincinnati has just kind of taken that mold and expanded on it tenfold, fourfold, I guess, in a way, because they have four starting quality center backs. I don't know. Kind of, it seems to be working out.
Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and it's working for Cincinnati so far. But now, you've been here before. You know what comes next. It's time for the score predictions, man. Y'all, the guests, are still doing pretty strong. I don't have the exact calculations because I was on vacation, so I missed the past two games, but I'm sure y'all are doing pretty darn well so far. How do you think this game ends?
I'm more bullish, unfortunately, for Cincinnati this time around than I was last time around. Turf is always going to be a point of conversation. It is a wrinkle, whether we want it to be or not, in a matchup like this. But that being the case, trajectory of teams, Cincinnati getting a little bit of extra time. I'm going to say 2-1 Cincinnati. Kevin Denke gets one. And how about Pavel Buka? We talked about him ad nauseum today. How about Pavel Buka gets a goal? Blateloff gets one in there as well. So, yeah, I'm feeling 2-1 FC Cincinnati.
We have the question from Tommy, our good friend Tommy. How much should I bet on Cincinnati? And that tells you just about where our minds are.
Oh, yeah, that's the problem. This is the problem though, is like you come in with expectations, right? Like this is how much of a weird get right game could this be for Atlanta? Like you kind of just you I never want to be in this position where it's like, hey, we are the team that needs or should be the team to win because you never want to be the team that like breaks the streak, I guess, or like breaks the form, like because it is in reality, this is a home game against a top two, top three team in MLS for Atlanta, and you've been licking your wounds all season trying to figure out the puzzle. Like, how big of a boost would it be for Atlanta to come in and knock off Cincinnati at home that could really jumpstart their season? Like this is like like we said, Cincinnati's got a great defense. If you finally figure out the offensive pieces to click and to unlock this offense against a Cincinnati defense, that's a huge confidence boost. That's a huge confidence boost for a team that really needs results right now. And it would not shock me as a game where Atlanta comes out, gets a win, and you circle this game and look back at Atlanta goes on a run because of a game like this, where it really figures out like, this is how we do it. This is how we should attack teams. And all of a sudden you look back and we'll say, what if?
I mean, if that happens, we're bringing you on every week. So,
Can I really trade my card in?
Hey, we'll take anything. I just want to see some fun soccer from this Atlanta side. But by the way, Josh, we have almost hit the 50-minute mark. This is another record for Across the Pitch for the longest conversation we've had. But we're having so much fun, man. Honestly.
Apologies. I love talking ball, and I appreciate you guys having me on. It's just kind of, I just kind of go and I just kind of get lost in talking ball. So again, I appreciate it, and I love talking ball with you guys.
I appreciate it, man. Do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Atlanta fans, I know you guys are going through it, and it's obviously hard with the money spent and the ambition that this ownership group has had. I would say, as someone who spent the first couple of seasons watching the worst soccer you could possibly imagine, you're gonna be all right. It's gonna be like, yes, it sucks now. You're gonna find your way through. At some point, talent will prevail, but hang tough. Could be worse. You could be Toronto. You're not Toronto.
Very good point. We are thankful for that. Amen. Josh, once again, where can people find you?
Blue Sky at Aquanoggin, partially on Twitter. I kind of have crawled my way back just because things are lively over there. Follow Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Check out the website. We're doing all kinds of great shows. Obviously, on our counterpart, one of my counterparts, Jeff Tebbets, also just did our version of this jersey swap with you guys. Tommy was also on was with Jeff doing this exact thing, getting the Atlanta side of things. So check us everywhere on all the socials at Cincy Soccer Talk, and keep supporting the local soccer in your community. It's never been more critical. So we love what you guys are doing over there. So keep it up and have all your fan base and everybody keep doing their thing, because we need independent soccer journalism and everything more than ever. So keep up the great work.
Amen, man. Well, Atlanta United versus FC Cincinnati, Sunday night soccer, 7:30 p.m.
Sunday night soccer, huh? First time Cincinnati is going to be on there this season. So
really
excited for that. And yeah, they will not. We found out that since they're not going to Cincinnati at all this season for Sunday night soccer. So I think I have to double check, but I do think this might be the only Sunday night soccer game that Cincinnati is in. Yeah, but they're not going to Cincinnati, which is
crazy.
As you know, I will shamefully be a homer about it. Is a crime against Apple, because Cincinnati brings one of the best environments in all of MLS. If you have not caught a game there, absolutely make it. Again, this is shameful plugging for the team that I root for, so it's easy for me to say, but genuinely, objectively as I can be, one of the best environments. So check it out. Check out TQL Stadium. That reminds me, I need to get down to the Benz. I have not seen a game there, so maybe next year I will circle it and try to get down there, because that looks awesome as well.
It's a beautiful stadium. It never gets old. And yeah, we also have some pretty fun tailgates outside before the game. Hopefully, if the team's doing semi-decently, you'll actually get a fun environment. So we'll see, man. But yeah, Atlanta United, FC Cincinnati this Sunday, 7:30 p.m. If you haven't already, be sure to check out our website, www.scarvesandspikes.com. We got your news, we got your opinions, we got everything about Atlanta United. Check out the shop for merch. We got hats, we got hoodies, we got t-shirts, we got tons of stickers, beer glasses, so much stuff. But be sure to check out the shop to get yourself some swag. And if you haven't already, join the Patreon, $1.17 a month. That is all you need to get you access to exclusive content and the world-class Discord, where you too can submit questions for future episodes of Across the Pitch, and stuff like our Unfiltered series, stuff like our Patreon mailbags, where you get to learn the deep, dark secrets of the people who make your content us. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.